They like the chaos.
They like the chaos. So when you're able to
chaos,
let that chaos reign with
chaos,
let that chaos reign with
chaos,
let that chaos reign with
must reign.
All right, guys. Welcome again to another edition, another podcast, another live stream here on the Chaos Reign Show. I am Chaos Reign. And today, ladies and gentlemen, another I guess you see the thumbnail, and it looks like there's some buzz about this particular gentleman, my Mr. Nate, by last name St. James, in regards to his I would say attention, either in a good or negative way. Nonetheless, the man is here. He's been putting himself out there for the last less than 3 months, and he's already draw an attraction to a lot of black people from all sectors of YouTube to have the conversation. So, and if you guys can hear me well, let me know in the chat room. Y'all hear me good? As y'all know, everybody that wants to come on to the channel and express their opinions, they can do it now in the chat room. If you have a direct question, that has to be in the super chat, like always, support the channel. And yeah, as you know, Mr. St. James, for some reason, a lot of men, besides women, and women are going to start about to talk about him very soon, but we give him time. Well, most men have their little suspicions about the brother, which I did not have suspicions at first, but now that I think about it, I have to start put my, senses on about this brother. And really, truly, I'm going to probably run a videotape of him in this conversation with the one they call Pearl, and give more insight about some things about the brother. But nonetheless, as you guys come through the channel, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel like always. As you watch the video, give a video a like. If you hate it, always give dislike. All engagement, positive, negative, is always good for the algorithm. And if you're watching, it's also good for the algorithm as well. So people that pop up and then jump off, that is considered engagement for those that don't know. But people don't know. So anyhow, let me say what's up to everybody in the chat room. What's good to Red Pill Sleeper Cell and Mr. O. And if you guys want to come up and give your own honest take on the gentleman, let me know in the chat room that you want the link, and I'll put the link for you guys to come up. And right now, I'm trying to see my other end. Let's test the volume. Right now, I'm trying to see. All right, my volume's good on this end. So no further, let me run the videotape. Oh. As I run the videotape, I found something on Facebook by the old man, Sidian, about the brother. I might read to y'all in a second. But let's play the videotape. No further ado, let's watch the scene with him and Pearl. I'm not sure I'm going to go through all of it, but I'm going to go through enough of it for tonight. And maybe you guys like it, I might do for a part 2. Maybe. We'll think about it. But, and another thing, I forgot to say this. As you know, we support the channel, all countries. Usually the goal is $50 average. But if you go and you support the channel with $20 or more, I got a new donation thanks for those that want to see. But only if you put up 20 more bucks. 20 or over, All right, let's go. Let's begin. Fair use. This is him in Pearl. Let's go.
Hey, James, we are so happy to have you here.
Thank you for welcoming me.
So could you tell my audience a little bit about yourself? You're relatively new on the scene.
Yeah, I actually started this podcasting journey about 2.5 months ago. And just being myself per usual, I did not anticipate 250,000 people in the last 4 days seeing my face and hearing my voice and having hundreds of thousands of people either loving me or hating me.
Now, remember, this brother in his mid-30s now, he just started doing YouTube/podcasting in the month of May. Ironically. I think he said himself that he really started to get real tension when he's with those ladies from Canada. And as I'm letting this play, I'm going to look up when he did that podcast with the Canadian ladies. So let's go. Farius, enjoy.
At this point. So I'm here. I'm a licensed therapist and trained certified trauma specialist. And I've been working for over a decade in the field. And I'm repping Philadelphia.
Cool. So what was it like going viral? And because I know some people get people can handle that amount of attention in different ways. So how was it for you?
Yeah, honestly, I laughed at all the comments, good and bad. Apparently, I'm Kevin Samuels 2.0. I am gay. I hate women, and I'm a red pill therapist, is what I've been apparently now identified as. So,
now I'm not sure the gentleman is gay. He could probably proclaim as a red pill therapist, but from what I'm hearing from a lot of gentlemen, generally, they will not consider Mr. St. James a red pill therapist. Allegedly, some men might not say he's red pill, but others might think he is. And you know how it is. Red pill is always interchangeable when it comes to content creation. So, all right, let's keep going. Farius.
Apparently, I'm all of these things. But honestly, I don't take myself too seriously. Even me getting into this space, I wasn't looking necessarily like get famous. It was more so just bringing a slightly different perspective that I felt I wasn't really hearing in a lot of these types of conversations.
Yeah, well, you were really calm. I was actually surprised how much they let you talk. They never, I got to learn whatever the heck you did. They never let me talk that much. They always cut me off.
You know what? I would say it's definitely the pool of the people you admire and kind of invite on at times. They're the argumentative types. These two ladies, they welcomed me. They asked me, and they came up with the topics. They came up with the questions, and I just came in and did it.
Cool. So now that you're labeled the red pill therapist, would you consider yourself red pill, and how would you personally define it?
Sure. Yeah. I never thought I'd be identified in that way. But in terms of all the ways in which people can kind of categorize me or categorize what I stand for in a lot of my arguments, sure. I think a lot of what I stand for is probably red pill. And the interesting thing is there was a point in my life when I was definitely black pill, and I've switched back over to the red pill side. And I hope to convert you and all of your black pill listeners to come back over to the slightly less dark side.
Well, okay, so you want to convert me today. We'll get to that later. So what is your opinion then on the current dating markets and intersexual dynamics between men and women?
Okay. In terms of what's going on presently and how we got here, in my last interview, I kind of mentioned that the pill and birth control, sexual liberation, women entering the workforce en masse, and social media / dating apps has really changed how we as human beings kind of see each other and the general trajectory of where we're heading as a civilization, especially in terms of Western cultures. More or less, the end result is now that women have basically delayed motherhood and marriage, increased their chances of experiencing a lot of trauma and pain from the frequent relationships that don't work through their teens and 20s and possibly 30s, and also decreasing just the overall trust in each other, men and women, as well as increasing the perspective of just wanting transactional expectations on the other side. We've now developed very false beliefs in terms of optionality of what's available whenever things don't just keep working out. We can give up, we can leave relationships, we can get divorced. And then that's pretty much led us to where we are declining as a civilization in terms of our birth rate. So I think that's in essence what is going on at this point.
And do you think it's because of the pill, or like what do you think are the root causes behind it?
Each one of these things that I listed gave options to women that perhaps they didn't have or didn't have nearly as much as they did. Sure, in the past, women could have gotten hangers and, went in the back alley to kind of get that situation addressed. But once it became more formalized in medical settings, it made their ability to be able to.
Okay, I was able to do a little quick digging, and I've discovered when he did that interview with those two ladies from Canada, one that's 52 by turn 53, and the other one that's 29, maybe turn 30. That was back in June, either the 15th or 19th. So we're looking at this guy just opened up his podcast / YouTube channel roughly in May. And I guess he put out maybe some small clips here and there from various conversations maybe he did. I can't really go too much in his background, but from what I could probably think of and go back, that's the direction he started taking it. And eventually someone was going to come around and watch the little short form content, because that's how it works nowadays, people. They watch your short content, and then eventually they will bring you on to have a more deeper conversation. That's how it goes. And how it works is, y'all know the deal. The thing that YouTube always said, if you want to grow a channel, you must collaborate with other content creator. So you must work well with others to get a following, which he did after these two ladies took him on or decided to interview him. That's really what started to make him go trending on social media, especially on the shorts, either on TikTok or YouTube. Yeah. And then after that, he goes on other people's channels, including one you see here, Pearl Davis, which probably was maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure. I got to double check when he went on her podcast, but it was no greater than a month later, maybe. And then after that, you see he went on other people's podcasts. And the question has to be laid out on the floor. Is this man trying to, from what I'm hearing, become famous and grow a big following and be the next top therapist on the social media? Needless to say, I think that's the direction the man's taking it. If you think about it, even his YouTube channel, he monetized that very quickly after he got a couple thousand subscribers, 1,000 subscribers in the watch time. So to a lot of men that had their suspicions of what he's trying to do, where he's taking it, and I don't think most men are knocking him for making money, but we gotta be honest why you're here. So anyhow, let's keep going. Let's listen more of this. Face.
Delay a lot of things that were typically done earlier for women and throughout human history. They said, I can wait till I'm my late 20s. I can wait till my 30s to do this now. And simultaneously, I can now have sex and choose my suitor. So that was one way in which they kind of opened up the door for women specifically to start to approach dating and marriage differently. Then when you had the sexual liberation movement, they were convinced that trying to do life like men, especially sexually, was going to have all of these significant benefits. The consequence, unfortunately, is not only was it a rise and increase in STDs, a rise increase in single mother households, but also probably a significant degree of dissatisfaction with women when it comes to their ability to be able to pair bond, their ability to remain satisfied, and always the comparisons of what's next or who's next or who could be better. So yeah, I think that, many of these, and then of course we can't forget the social media and dating apps. It's just it's convinced a generation of women, specifically in the West, that there's always a better alternative. There's always a best option. And that with the influx of the likes, the influx of the comments, the influx of men in their DMs, they're convinced that because there's so many of these men that want me, that I have all these options. And the reality is they wouldn't sleep with most of those men. They wouldn't be in relationships with most of those men. But they've, in essence, kind of conflated all this attention I get on the outside with the reality of how few men I actually want and can actually end up with.
I think it almost reveals women don't like men as much as we originally thought. Would you agree with that, or do you disagree?
This is a tough one.
Because it's
You
like
already
the
give me-
second
yeah,
you're
there you-
like, do you want to kill their kids? They're like, yup. They're like, the second they're like, do you want to leave your husbands? They're like, yup. The second they're like, do you want to be moms? Do you guys want to wait? They're like, let me wait as long as possible. You know, they say like revealed preferences versus stated preferences. So like people say they want things, but if you look at like their actions, it's not like, it's like the fat friend you keep taking to the gym. And they're like, I want to lose weight. And you're like, all right, come to the gym.
Earl, first of all, you know I got a job, right? So I'm gonna try to keep it. Well, what I would say in response to that, believe it or not, is that I do agree that with optionality, people's natures have definitely been revealed much more clearly. But with that said, I don't know if I was a woman and I had this many options and an ability to get so much attention so early and so often that I wouldn't have potentially adopted much of that mindset too if I were in their shoes for at least a season. The issue is actually not simply that it's revealed that women have the capacity to be just as grimy as men in some respects. It also revealed that I think they saw something. It revealed something in women that I don't think most men factored in.
It was a secret before. Women could just say like that. Oh, that was the women today. In the past, we weren't like that. And I'm like, yeah, grandma, because there's no smartphones. Like, come on.
Yeah. I don't buy that women, and that's the thing. This is the difference.
Yeah.
I think the only difference between women today and women of the past is cameras, social media, and the ability for us to see it more readily available. I think women have always done what they wanted to do and pick their best option that they thought they can get in terms of a spouse. Very quickly might move on if a guy wasn't the right fit. I think female dating strategies by default is definitely different than men's. And I don't think that changed as much as it probably got exacerbated with all these things that I mentioned.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing I think you said that I might have a different opinion on, I don't think, I think you said women are like traumatized from sleeping around. I don't really. I think it's just like a get out of jail free card they use later. I'm like, you did not look traumatized when you were like hanging out with Tyrone, Chad, Gavin. You seem fine.
Yeah.
But then you're gonna like cry later. But I think it's just so they could get a husband, because like obviously they can't be like, oh, I really enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun. So
well, as a trauma, sorry to cut you off. As a trauma therapist, I actually know what trauma is. So it's very fascinating to see women and people specifically that overuse trauma, and everybody that I was with in the past as a narcissist, like I actually know what these terms mean and know how to measure them. So when I mean it, what I actually mean is that they actually increase their chances to experience trauma because you keep dealing with so many men who you haven't probably vetted properly. But a lot of times when they're using those words, it's not actually applying to the case.
No, they don't want to vet them properly. You know what I mean? You just want six-pack abs. Okay, so tell me what you mean by qualified and unqualified men.
So in my last interview with the ladies at Sharing My Truth podcast, I had mentioned that there were men that were considered qualified and there were men that were considered unqualified, and that their experiences with women tends to be radically different. The men that I would say are qualified are typically men that have good to great income. They meet a certain height requirement, typically 6 feet or above. They're in fairly decent shape, fairly charismatic, confident, desired by multiple women and respected by multiple men. Those are the men that I would say, and most people would kind of identify as quote unquote qualified to have options with women, to be able to push off commitment, to be able to sleep with multiple women simultaneously at the same time and never have to lead towards marriage. These are the quote unquote men that qualify to get access to women's sex, softness, love, intimacy, etc. Whereas the men that are quote unquote unqualified, they're usually missing multiple of those check boxes, if not all of them. Go ahead.
Where would you put men, like, because there's certain men in just certain environments where they're broke, but they get a lot of women. Like, you know how it is, the salsa instructor.
hope you guys are getting it so far. I hope you guys you're being entertained so far. Like the stream. You can share the stream. Support the stream. Always Cash App or Super Chat will be appreciated. Let's keep going. I have nothing to say right now, but let's keep listening. Grace.
Or like the club promoter, you know what I mean? Where would you put them as qualified or unqualified if like they don't have the money, but they still get women? You know, the bartender in LA, they got all the actors. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, for men that don't check off all the boxes, you typically have to be exceptional at least one or two.
Okay.
So the men that are unqualified are pretty much not doing anything in any of these areas significant to like kind of stand out. So for instance, the guy that's really, really tall and is like pretty charismatic and has nothing else of the things I kind of listed, he'll do well. Because he's exceptionally tall and he knows he's a good talker, right? Yeah. So we see it. Whereas the guys who can't talk to women, the guys who are not that tall, the guys that don't make any money, the more it gets to a point where she either friend zones you or doesn't even acknowledge you.
Yeah. You ever meet a guy that gets girls to pay his rent? I've seen that.
Oh, I'm jealous of them guys, man. Jealous of them guys.
Can you talk more about attraction triggers and define what they are?
Yeah, so they're different, obviously on an individual by individual level, but the things that I just listed are typically from the female perspective, the female side, typically some of the key cues that they're looking for. So from an attraction trigger perspective, women typically don't want to get with the guy that they can't sense that other women also think is attractive. So the problem that we're kind of having in terms of like this whole topic and this discussion that's going on, when you think about it, is like, these women are only picking men that they believe other women want and trying to ensure and guarantee that guy is going to be monogamous and with them for the rest of their lives. So their attraction triggers are putting them in a small pool, dealing with a small pool of men that they're often being disappointed with as a result. Whereas on the flip side with men, many of their attraction triggers, a lot of women confuse that because they assume that they would be the same. Oh, I make so much money. I make this much money. I have this degree. I got my own car. I got this. I got that. None of those things apply to men, especially men that have those things. So men, many of our attraction triggers are softness, femininity, nurturing, the desire to potentially start a family, a willingness to be able to listen and learn from him and not feel like she has to constantly lead or dominate. Those are a lot of the things that men are typically looking for, and particularly attracted to. So for whatever reason, it seems like a lot of men aren't checking off the boxes in terms of attraction triggers that women are typically looking for. And unfortunately in the West, that's probably true to an extent because a lot of the women, unfortunately, in this country and in Canada and in UK and in Australia and other Western countries, they don't desire the need to develop those things that men are attracted to. They just project what they want onto the man and expect him to expect the same from them.
You know what's interesting? Because I've interviewed 1,000 women on my show. And the women that I met that I would say had the highest femininity, there's always like a reason. There's always a but. Like it was very necessary. Like they either highly struggled with weight or had children. So it seemed like it was kind of made out of like necessity. And I was in London, so I was interviewing women from all over the world. But I would find if there was ever like really, really high femininity, there would always be a catch. Is that what you've seen? Like, is that what you've seen? Man. Or maybe you've seen other things.
It's a mix. It's a mix. So sometimes it's actually because of religious upbringing and them being very sheltered and still sheltered. Because typically, and you'll see it, and you've probably talked about it on your show, there's definitely instances where they had a great father that was very caring and very protective. And, before you knew it, they ended up, going to college and all of that went out the window, right? So yeah, sometimes life humbles them. Sometimes it's because of their background and what they're still remaining in. I definitely agree that it's rarer to find in Western countries for sure. But I've also experienced women who tend to stay to themselves and are not really in the mix. And I don't want to say that they're female loners, but they normally won't catch the eye of most men unless they just happen to be in the same proximity.
Yeah. Of the men that you said are like able to cheat, in your experience, what % do? So not what you've read, not what you've seen online, like in your personal, what you've seen in real life.
Now back to the aspect of cheating, and I'm not sure why women are so fascinated about men cheating. It baffles me that in the age of social media, men does have some options depending on the men you are attracting to. Men don't have this itch about cheating on their girlfriend, their wife, roughly. And the reason why is because pussy is pussy. You know the saying, most dudes, when they just go up and have post-nut clarity, they just move back and operate like it's normal. Because we are not really wired, designed to be just attached like that, where we just give up our phallus to any to Jaren women and like we're going to just attach. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some women that some men will get sprung if he doesn't really have access to enough women and have not soaked his royal oats with different vaginas. Then yeah, some men will be sprung and attached to certain women after the screw. Some men won't. That's why you look at why most men nowadays that don't get much sex, they're gonna lack that capability to really just have the sex with the woman and act as though it's nothing, especially someone that is your official wife or official girlfriend. I said, this is me, you meet an item, anyone else I deal with just for a plaything. And a lot of women cannot accept that. Give or take. And really truly the cheating thing, I talk about this enough times on my channel about the cheating aspect. And personally, I mean, I have views with cheating. I think men should explore whoever he fancies, but keep it in a more controlled environment, respectfully, if you can. If the woman likes you and you're already in a relationship, you tell her what it is, and if she still proceeds, then you proceed with caution. But that's as far as I'm gonna say. Yeah, I might agree with that comment here. Okay. All right, let's listen to the man's response to Pearl's question about the cheating. Let's go.
If I had to put a genuine, true number on it, I would think 30 to 40% of men probably have cheated. And this is going to be one of the first shocking things I'm going to say on your show. I think women cheat far more.
Oh yeah,
far more. They're better cheaters. They're more secretive about it. They don't get the same punishments for doing it like men will. So yeah, and even when,
I mean, there is some repercussions for women that cheat on the wrong dude. I ain't gonna go detail what repercussions that woman will face. Let's say some men, if they're very bold, the best punishment you give to a woman is you walk away after she has, or I have to call fuck on you. So, but anyhow, let's go. And like the stream, guys. Likes are free.
they do cheat and they admit it to each other, they don't view their cheating the same way they view men's cheating. So this is why they can still remain friends with homegirls that they knew were doing all this stuff on the side. Whereas for a man to do it, they have to destroy his entire life and character and legacy as a result. So yeah, and this is the other thing. When you're a guy that other women, when you're younger, older, that's pretty attractive enough to kind of be around women enough, you'll be the guy that they're cheating with. And you'll start to be like, oh my gosh, like this, how common is this? And you always feel bad and you're like, man, I hope I'm never that guy. And you learn like these guys will never know. A lot of these guys would never, ever, ever know. So I absolutely think that probably 30 to 40% of men cheat or have cheated. And I think that number is probably 50 to 60% of women. And I'm honestly probably being conservative when I say that.
Yeah. And that doesn't include like messages and like Like, I'm assuming you're just limiting it to physical cheating, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you included women having like
Yeah.
a work husband or something else, it would probably be even 80 or 90%.
Listen, I don't know about 80, 90%, but what I have observed
Yeah.
is that there are other things that I've seen the double standard when the things that they will go off on a man for in terms of cheating or looking
Yeah.
for attention and validation outside the relationship, they have no problem receiving it on their end. If they see that their man, their boyfriend, their husband is liking another woman's picture, they will freak out. But the idea of them making their profile private, they're like, why would I do that? He's controlling. So they just see these things like totally different. Like people liking their bikini pictures that are not women, they just is like, that's just normal. But him liking a woman who's half naked or in a bikini, it's a problem. So I don't think that they typically see their cheating and their seeking validation outside the relationship in quite the same way. So that's why I actually think the numbers are somewhat skewed to be a little bit higher.
And in your experience, who's more likely to forgive cheating, men or women?
Women, but I think women and men are in similar territory with that. I think it's only the men who aren't operating from a scarcity mindset that have no problem with being like, get out. I'm good. I will never see or talk to you again. Only the men that know that they can easily replace her typically will do that. Most men, if they know, it's going to be very difficult to replace her, I have all this other stuff going on, they'll just kind of endure and try to go to therapy and try to work it out. Whereas a lot of women, despite the horrible stats in terms of how much they initiate breakups and divorces, oftentimes it's not after the first time. It's usually after repeated offenses that they eventually get to that point where they get jaded, they change their feelings, and then they start planning their escape when the whole guy thinks that we've moved on from it.
I think that and I want to see if you agree, I think there's alpha and beta cheating. There's women that get cheated on by guys with options, and they'll usually stick it out. But there's nothing worse than a woman getting cheated on by a guy who she thinks can't. Those are like the biggest crash outs I've seen.
And like I say again, women, yeah, they are bad cheaters. And usually the whole plot in America, the West, for a lot of people that don't know or never did really knew, that U.S. men, you should never, ever, ever explore your options, whether you got it like that or not. Women today in this Western world want to hold all the cards because sex comes to them very easy. That's why, women don't understand that. That's why you see very few men that complain about either getting some or don't get some. Why sex is not really plentiful for not all men, regardless if they believe it or not. And I think why most women think that, because most women are cheaters, in my opinion, and they're giving out a whole lot of sex to the dudes that they're really attracted to, and they think, by hence, if I'm not fucking them, someone else is, and that is not logical. That is not logical at all for those that think like that. So keep that in mind. Let's keep going. Fairies.
And I want to know if you agree or disagree.
Well, I never described it or conceptualized it in that way. But now that I think about it, it does make sense that there seems to. Why is it that so many of her exes that are the cheaters and the abusers, she'll go through all this stuff with these guys, and then it's the guy that's the good guy, one infraction, and he's gone. She's done.
Yes.
So I didn't describe it in that way. I think I'm gonna steal that from her.
It's like Jeff Bezos' wife, like, cause she, like, obviously, when they got together, he was like the nerdy kid, and now he's cheating. She's like, no, because she doesn't see who he is now. Like, she doesn't see who he is now. Like, she still sees the guy she like started with. I don't know. Yeah. Is the woman he's with now, is that his first wife or is this the second wife? No, this is the second. He cheated on his first wife with her.
Oh, okay. So the second wife, the only image I have of her, forgive me for this, but like it was when they were on a red carpet and Leonardo DiCaprio was standing in front of the two of them, and seeing her face marveling at this man in front of her boyfriend slash husband was like fascinating to me. And I'm like, he is a billionaire and she's still gawking at this other dude. I'm like, oh, ain't none of us safe, man.
That woman has to be studied. Like
like it's just Will Smith, Jeff Bezos, Steph Curry. It just doesn't seem to matter how high a guy gets. A woman will humble him by accident. Sometimes. It's amazing to see.
No, if you look at the last wife's dating history, it's like had a kid with an NFL player, then broke up with him, married 100 million, then broke up with him and married a billionaire. And I'm like, she still has the ability to secure rings, even though she has 2 different baby daddies and she's like 55.
Listen, she collected them rings like Infinity Stones. And
yeah, that's what I said. I said, you know what? There's some women that you don't know what the hell they got because they're clearly, she must gluck or something. I don't know.
She got that thing on. That's all I know. She got that thing.
I don't know. Okay, so the next topic we're going to talk about is passport bros. What is your opinion on men that go?
Now this right here, this really stir up a lot of men that are traveling overseas. I want you to listen, pay attention very carefully, and this will draw a lot of attention and a lot of question mark about Mr. Patrick St. James. Listen carefully on this one, guys. I'm gonna let him talk, and you be the judge. Fair use.
Go overseas to date. Do you think that's a good idea, bad idea? What's your general take on it?
I'm actually, believe it or not, fairly neutral because first of all, these are grown men that can do whatever they want with their money and their time and their energy. But with that said, I want men that are doing it to be very intentional and cautious with the countries that they're doing that in. Because a lot of times when men put themselves in these situations, I know that men are going for all hosts of different reasons. Some to find a feminine woman who they can build a life and family with. Some because they just want to do sexual tourism. Some just for the sake of being able to have fun during trips. I get the whole nine, right? All these different reasons and rationales and justifications for doing it. Cool. My issue and concern is twofold. One, men have to recognize that what do you think the men that are in some of these countries, especially the countries where your dollar goes further, how do these men feel about you? And you have to be cautious as more and more men that are coming from your area are doing the same thing. These men will start to get more tribal and possessive about seeing all of these foreigners coming into their territory. It's almost like a sexual form of gentrification. Like it's a thing where people start seeing you creeping in and, you know, you could actually start putting yourself a little bit at risk. So make sure that you're kind of being safe with the areas and environments that you're doing and putting yourself in. And then number two, although it's fine to do that, and it is what it is, I do wonder if there's men that haven't figured out how to get some of the experiences that they're getting over there back here. My issue is like, I'm in the camp that like I've learned that if you can talk to the most beautiful women in one country, you can effectively do it everywhere. The difference is really just the expectations of what is granted. So these women in other countries can actually be just as forward and straight up front about what it is that from a transactional standpoint they want from you. The difference is they're just softer and more feminine when they do it. They still want something from you. They're not just having sex with you guys for free. They're not like, oh, he's American, cool, let me let you smash. It's really about like you're still paying in some way, shape, or form. I'm not going to use Myron's quote of the whole was that all women are gold diggers necessarily, but they all, 99% of them don't want you to come with nothing to the table when you're approaching them. So if you're going to do that abroad, be safe about it, be smart about it, and do you.
Could you argue, and this is a thought I'm playing with, when women are the most valuable, they almost gold dig the least? Because that's when women will sleep with like anybody when they're young, like the bartender. It's like when we get older, then we have like money standards. But like what 18-year-old really, I don't see them gold digging as much. Or do you see something different? No. Yeah.
And this is kind of relates to like Rollo and other podcasters, the Manosphere, Mountaintop perspective of like, women don't typically truly understand what a decline from the mountaintop, where on the mountaintop, they start at the top. 18 years old, men their age, men in their 20s, men in their 30s, and potentially men in their 40s are all of a sudden checking for her. She didn't have to do anything to earn it. She's just now seen as valuable. She could, depending on how beautiful she is, she could get access to athletes, doctors, lawyers, celebrity men.
Oh, yeah.
Really wealthy people, and she didn't have to do anything to accomplish it. And when you're born into something like that, and it's reinforced for your first 10 to 12 years worth of adulthood, I'm not shocked that many of them struggle with not seeing. It takes them a while to realize, like, I'm not getting as much attention as I used to. And as I'm getting older, many of the men that are younger than me, I don't want. And many of the men that are my age are starting not to check for me. It takes them a while for it to really, really click and hit in. And usually it's when men stop offering drinks as much, when they stop approaching them as much. And probably I know the telltale sign when they are in a room and a younger, more fit, beautiful woman walks in the room and she no longer exists to the other men in the room. That is usually when it starts to hit them.
Yeah, I agree. So tell me the story of your dating apps in Atlanta and Chicago and how many likes you got. And what does that story tell us about modern society?
So in regards to his views about men traveling, right? Or they call it passport bros, right? And that's his take on what he thinks or feels and believes that it's going to get very violent, tribal in essence, where a lot of the men, the foreign men, will go and rush up against and attack American men, you know, for going out there because they have the money, most likely, and they have the more possibility to gain access to their woman because they carry a little bit more, and it makes the natives feel restless. That's what you hear in your stories. A lot of men, especially in certain parts of South America, particularly, and maybe the Philippines, but mostly South America, why you see that if any man that's traveling, whether black, white, or let's say black men in general, right, they'll become missing, violent, alive, or somewhat robbed, or something else. And the reason why it is because you pose a greater threat that you could potentially take their pussy. And that is natural because men by nature are territorial. Think about this, gentlemen. Out of all men that have no problem someone taking and fucking his chick, is mostly us or the black man generally in the West or anywhere we reside generally, unless it's our own woman, like our wives and stuff. But generally, black men have no problem what black woman does, you know. Not like they're gonna control black women in regards to their options. Let's keep it real, right? But other groups of men have this dominatrix of over women about who the hell they screwing. Hell, they don't want them screwing no black man. And the reason be because once their woman gets their cheeks clapped by a black man, it's a wrap. And I don't mean genetically, I mean everything, because this black man pose of a greater, more sexual threat than all other groups of men. So I hear St. James about that it's the constant threat. But most men out there, especially black men, that if they can't get the women they want here, they will travel elsewhere to either screw other women outside this Western hemisphere, or they will go out there and look for wives. And really, truly, black men, you gotta stop with this notion that whatever you do with your phallus, people should be concerned about. Rather you have access to women here in America or outside America. It's just nonsense because no other group of men does this. But I understand why I do it, because it's all a plight of mate guarding. That's how I look at it. That's how I look at it, guys. All right, let's keep going. Ferris.
This story I have, I don't know why it's blowing up so much, but back in 2020, I was on a couple of dating apps. I was on Bumble, which is how I ended up meeting my wife. But at the time, I think we were only 2 weeks into knowing each other. I still had BLK, which is a black dating app, up on my phone as well. And early 2020, I had to do a layover flight to Chicago, and I had to fly to Atlanta, sat in the airport for 2 hours, and then ended up in Chicago and got off the plane. And so this was only about 2.5 hours of downtime. And when I got in the car, I turned my phone on and I actually checked the app. And the app, I forgot, was on and it was going by my geolocation. And when I opened up my phone and opened up that app, after 2 hours in Atlanta and about 20 to 30 minutes in Chicago, I had about 72 to 74 women that had initiated and matched up with me from those two cities.
Wow.
Within 2.5 hours, almost 75 women. And that is a reflection of two things. One, the market is skewed for men that meet and check off certain requirements. If a lot of women think that you're fairly educated, if you carry yourself a certain way, if you know how to dress your profile up a certain way, and if they can glean what you say you do for a living and potentially how much you make, if you land in a city, God forbid if you stay in the city, you have a massive advantage over 80+% of the men that's already there. So just landing in the airports, not even walking around, I had almost 80 women within a 2.5 hour time span. Now, mind you, I'm not a celebrity. I'm not a model. I'm not rich or even super rich. And if those are my numbers, can you imagine the guys that actually live there? The guys who are wealthy, the guys who are athletes? It's probably in the thousands. And the reason why that story is so interesting is because as women become more selective and believe that their optionality is unlimited of all the options and choices I have, they don't really realize that when you're not your best version of yourself, the guy who gets that type of attention doesn't have to tolerate it, doesn't have to commit, and will very quickly replace you with no hesitation or trouble. And they don't realize that often until it's too late, when they're at a space and point where they're going to have much more difficulty having children, not having access to the same men that they may have had before. And worse, they may be in a position where for the first time they have to reevaluate if I am going to get married, if I am going to settle down, it has to be with a man that wasn't my first, second, or third choice.
And how did...
Before we continue, I'm going to read a passage by Memento by Obsidian about Mr. St. James. And I'm read it because most people have not really caught on to the blogs or any of his posts. He writes, a number of you have been telling me about Dr. St. James. He's not a doctor. He's a therapist. I don't know why people still call him doctor. I tell people many times, be very careful calling these people that are in the clinical field of psychiatry. You're going to have to start vetting them if they really got their doctorate in their field. Personally, I'm not calling them my doctor. Hell, a lot of people got misconception calling one chick that's out here that got really, really exposed by Paul Pierce. Personally, Cheyenne Bryant, she referred to herself as a doctor. And when we look at her credentials, the university that she said she took to get a doctorate, what has found malpractice of scamming. Yeah, that says a lot. So let me keep reading. Ask a Brother podcast, and I've seen a few of his interviews. I was just beginning to think that we might have an ally when I saw this clip. Why is there so much hand-wringing when black men do what black women themselves have been doing for decades without any incense? Why is it empowering when black women get their groove back, but a major cause for concern with brothers do it? Why are all the crocodile tears and concerns trolling rear their ugly head now that brothers want to get away from toxic environments? And yet, I said it, a lot of black women. And why are the tired saw about not being able to talk to women stateside, or the ideal that you're paying for it no matter where you go? Where is there so much fear in black men seeking love, sex, freedom outside of black American borders? I'll tell you why. Because black American need you black men to stay down the farm. That's why they need you to take on what everyone knows are Black American cast-offs, proved by the weary dating apps, studies known to mankind. They need you to tell the daily abuse, disrespect, and worse. Sorry, Dr. James. No, his name is St. James. He's not a doctor. Obsidian. But if Black American really cares about how Black men felt, they would be pulling out all the stops on every single or every sign language tactics in the book, and then some only when they leave out the door. They would, and I have to say, with all due respect, brother, this right here was very disappointing to see. I'm getting double agent vibes here. It's not double agents. It's really truly this man. To be honest, from what I'm seeing, like most like people that wants to do this, try and grow a very fast and strong following at a short period of time, and then he's using assistance of a lot of content creators, reactionary content creators, unfortunately, to get to that direction. So there, that's something I had to read from Obsidian about St. James. And yes, he's not a doctor. I don't know why people keep referring to a doctor. That's disrespectful. All right, let's keep going. Fairies.
How did your matches compare? Because I think Tinder's been in the market for 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So how did your matches compare from like today or then when you said you were 30 to like when you were 20? Or would that have been before? Were you on the apps before that?
No. I had come out of a previous relationship before that.
Okay.
So I had gotten married around 25, gotten divorced around 29, and 30. I'm back out there in the streets, and I hadn't been on dating apps before that. So this was my first time really trying dating apps, and I'm 30 by this point, and I was like, whoa. I didn't realize it was this easy. It was but what I didn't realize is that my experience wasn't every man's experience. I learned that over time with observation that some guys got way crazier numbers than me. And women, by doing this, where men didn't have to pay a dowry, they don't have to meet your family, they don't have to go to your church or your religious synagogue of some kind. They have to do almost the bare minimum of nothing other than being funny, sounding cool, and looking good to get access to your body and potentially get you to give them a kid. They created a market, probably unknowingly, where men that can do that are now men that look like me are now having body counts, and men that look way better than me are now having body counts that's rivaling kings during medieval time.
Yeah.
And you're expecting those men, all of those men that you want, to want to be not only with you, but only you for the rest of your life and theirs. Interesting.
And so what was that like for you? Because I'm sure getting out of I'm not going to put words in your mouth, so I'm not going to say this was your experience, but I know it's common for men to be taken for granted in their marriage.
All right, guys. It makes me wonder if this guy, I apologize. This guy said he was married at 25, divorced at 29. Is he married now again? Because if you were, let's say you're born in 1989 or roughly 1990, right? Because the guy said in the previous podcast that he was 35, right? Right? That means you've been married, you were off the market 11 years ago, then put yourself back on the market 6 years ago, or are you now off the market again after 2029 or 2019? Sorry, I'm getting numbers mixed up. Sorry, I apologize. So what is it? I'm not sure if you're married now, so a lot of question marks have to be speak about Mr. St. James. There's a lot of holes that need to be filled up, and I'm not sure every interview he does, it's like he's adding more or creating more holes for himself. Now listen to this interview. We gotta be careful listening to a lot of these interviews, because a lot of these interviews, a lot of the guys that's trying to grow a channel, they really do tell themselves. All right, let's keep going. Various.
Marriages. And so I always wonder what it's like to like almost beg or like, not maybe, I don't want to say that, but like be in a position where you're trying to work it out with a woman that doesn't appreciate you, to going to the streets and it's like all these women are ready to go. I don't know if that was your experience, so you can correct me, but I'm curious what that would be like. Yeah.
I honestly genuinely look at it through the lens of, and to protect her and how that past went. I look at the past so much in terms of my fault, my role, and how things unfolded. I look at it now through the lens of, I ignored red flags both in herself and me, and I was kind of that guy in college and settled with somebody who I thought I could be a good guy with, and I could be the dutiful guy. And the thing that a lot of men is terrified about with marriage, unfortunately, happened to me. You get into these relationships and the version of woman that you thought you were getting, they change. And, before you know it, I had the experience that a lot of men unfortunately ended up experiencing, which is the loneliest I ever felt in my life was when I was married.
And was it like a weight off your shoulders when you got divorced? Like, did you feel free? Yeah.
Oh God. I will touch on that and definitely my own content for sure. But no, it was the opposite, because when you go from trying to be a city boy and doing your thing and having fun and it's different women every week to, all right, now I'm married and stuff hits the fan, you functionally feel like you were robbed of what you thought you were going to get. You thought you were going to get this. And I'm like, wait a minute. So when I'm single, this is how women treat me. This is how often I get sex. This is how nice they are to me and how flirty. Like, I'm getting all these great things that comes when I'm single. And then when we get familiar with each other and it's an everyday routine, things just shift and change. And like me and many friends that I knew, for whatever reason, we didn't pay attention to certain social cues and patterns in history to recognize that was potentially something that could happen. So when I came out, I was actually devastated. I don't think men or women, well, there may be some women that approach marriage specifically with a plan in mind to leave and get certain things as a result of it. But I don't think almost any man goes into it thinking like this is going to end in 3 or 4 years. So when I came out, it wasn't a sigh of relief. It was brutal because for us, we don't view it as some milestone or doing divorce parties. We see it as a failure on our part. So I looked at it as a season in my life when I didn't live up to my potential. I probably put myself in that situation too soon. And in hindsight, it was like, yeah, I was devastated. I contemplated a lot of things about what the hell am I going to do with my life going forward. I felt like life was over at that point. So it was brutal, but luckily, we were both still younger. We didn't have any children.
Yeah.
We didn't have any major assets. So it was a pretty clean, even split, but no.
Do you think men can have that lesson without going through it?
No.
Like, yeah, that's what I don't, because if you try to explain that to a younger, like, I don't know if you've ever, and I'm not saying this is your situation, but just a common situation I've seen, it sounds like yours was different, but when guys like the guy who married, let's say Riley Reid, or a guy that wants to simp or whatever, it's like they can't learn unless they go through it. Would you agree with that or disagree?
I do.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about life. You had to go through some aches and pains, serious pains as a man, to really get the picture. I think Travis Hunter is going to get that same experience in a couple years, maybe less, hopefully. But like I said, most men don't really learn the hard way until we feel it. That's how it always normally goes. And a lot of men will sit there try to warn other brothers to say, don't fall in the same trap as me. Don't fall for it. Don't play her game. But you got to go through the pain to learn. Pain is your best teacher, gentlemen. Always remember that. Sometimes rejection is God's protection, but also pain is also a good testament of experiencing when you know they told you so, they told you so. All right, let's go.
And I think that actually, shockingly enough, applies to both men and women more often than not. People tend to operate where they truly do believe that they need to know why they should do or not do something. They have to get it. And it's just I almost want to say it's like a rite of passage where the difference. Now, what I will say is the difference of how it typically impacts men and women. Men, where it impacts them to the degree where they can't recover from it, usually take themselves out of this life.
Yeah.
Men who go through it and overcome end up being much better, much more accomplished, much more driven versions of themselves. Women who typically go through really, really bad situations, especially if it happens multiple times, they become worse versions of themselves, where they become so jaded, so pessimistic about men, and before you know it, like they become this shell of themselves where they're no longer happy, they're always nagging, they're always complaining, and then before you know it, they're like a miserable person to be around. Whereas the men who tend to be like that, they don't want to be around people. So that's kind of some of the key things I've kind of noted.
Yeah, women crash out. You know what that means, a crash out?
Listen, I have crashed out, so I'm a crash out king. So I've been there.
Yeah,
I've definitely been. Listen, with me going viral. With me going viral, I'm waiting for my crash out moments of people's screenshots to come back. So I know this is coming. So I'm probably gonna beat him to the punch and just, when I do my first intro video to my podcast to say, hey, everybody, it's me. I'm probably just gonna cover it all and get it out the way.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Cause I don't know. Okay, so let's talk about paternity tests. So you mentioned a stat that 1 in 3 paternity tests come back with the men not being the father. How did you research that, and what has the impact of that been on society? And do you think it's always been this way?
Has it always been this way? I just don't think we have enough data to go back that far to truly, truly know or determine that. I will say that I have noticed in a lot of Black families, there's always that 1 or 2 cousins that don't look like everybody else, right? And you always, I don't know, you always kind of wonder that. But no, so yeah, stat after stat, study after study kind of saying the same thing. About 34% of paternity tests are always coming back as not the person who was tested or the supposed to be father who was tested. If that's the numbers because of who's been tested, can you imagine what the numbers and percentages would be if all women were tested and paternity tests were mandatory? I'd envision it maybe. So this is why I said what I said about cheating being so high. If a third of women that are getting the ones that's just getting tested are showing that they're not the man that may potentially have been tested and thought he was the father, is not. If a third, 1 in every 3 women are showing this results. And I'm saying their cheating stats may be as much, if not higher than men, especially depending on the age range. I wouldn't be shocked that 40 to 45% of all men that are probably not the father of the child that they're raising.
So you actually think, because I always hear feminists are more like left, anti-man, I guess, leaning folks. They argue that, well, it's actually, I even hear conservatives argue this because they can't believe women are that slutty. That like they think it's because the people that are getting tested are going to be like a worse sample size because they're the ones getting tested. Like that's always the pushback I get. Do you think that's a valid pushback, or like why do you think it's higher?
Because the cheating rates are higher.
Okay.
It is sometimes we try to act like we don't see what's really there.
Yeah.
If the cheating's higher, yeah, more than likely the paternity test situation is probably a little bit higher as well.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I wish I came up with that. I want to take that one. Sometimes I give guests arguments that I haven't been able to answer. And I'm like, maybe they can come up with something better. Okay, so tell me about the mountaintop analogy.
Yeah, well, as I had mentioned before, 18-year-old men and 18-year-old women start diametrically opposed, with women typically being at the top and men typically being at the bottom. The only time men that are that young will...
Oh, anybody can hear me? If you guys like the stream, please give this video a like. If not, give it a dislike. And also support the channel. You know, the projection between men and women as they get older, it very much screwed through the scale. I think BGS did enough content about the peak between men and women. Not the same. It's never the same. And I think the society is trying to condition a whole lot of men that you peak off in your 30s. And that is not really factual. But I understand why they do this, because by doing so, it gives women a more greater floor to still screw around with a bunch of dudes that they're attracted to. And eventually, once you believe that you peak at a certain point, they'll come back for the reach back for you, gentlemen, to take care of them while they sit down and do nothing. Ain't that a bitch? Oh, I love women nowadays. They're such the biggest people that con a lot of men. The biggest pimps out there. Can't beat them. All right.
Will be at the top is typically they have to be very exceptional at something. You were either born in, you got the genetic lottery where you were born into a wealthy or rich family. You were a really high profile athlete that's about to go pro. Things of that nature would kind of increase his chances to kind of make the major jump and start off from the top. Everybody else, most guys are at varying degrees of very, very low. And the reason is because the things that women are looking for in comparison to all the men that are approaching them, you don't match up or you haven't done and accomplished most of those things or become most of those things at 18 years old. You probably aren't making little to no significant money. You potentially haven't built up your physique and actually grown into your man body. You don't own a home. You may or may not have a car. You don't have much to show for what women that are dating and being, you know, approached by all these men, especially ones that are older than you, would already have. So as time goes on, 18 to 25, she's hovering in that top tier area. And only the women that are exceptionally beautiful will typically stay very high up there post 30. Everybody else, women-wise, start to make the steep decline. And whereas men, at 18, you're at the bottom. By the time you get to about 30, if you have not put yourself in any significantly stupid situations, having to pay alimony, having to pay child support, having a record that prevents you from being able to get into a lot of fields to be able to make really good, decent money. If you've built up your money, if you've built up your body, if you've avoided some of those financial pitfalls, by the time you reach 30, you're now the guy that can date 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds, and even the 18 and 19-year-olds if that's your thing. So over time, we get to a point right around 30 where now I think for a lot of women, because they're so used to being up there, they assume that the guy that's 30 that now checks off all those boxes, him and her are now equals. No, you're not. He's up here. He now sees you as middle tier or down here. If he's up here, he's comparing you to all the women that look like you, all the women that are your age at 30, and all the women that are a little bit older and a little bit younger, but potentially have had less negative experiences and more positive attitudes towards men. So for whatever reason, men don't know that their value tends to mature later on, and women lose sight of what they're being valued for until it's often too late.
I almost think it's sooner these days than 30. Cause like no, I'm serious. I'm like looking at Gen Z. They're like tatted up and fat. I'm like this. And
yeah. Well,
I have a little sister. She was tatted up by like 22. I'm like, why would you do that? And it's like, but it's so common in their age group. Like they all do it.
Yeah. Now, the thing that the women who, in terms of this mountaintop analogy, because many of them aren't truly aware of what men use as distinguishing tools, tools to kind of discern between the woman I'm going to have fun with, recreational sex with, and the woman I'm probably going to take seriously. They don't know that overt sexuality is one of the worst things you can do to prevent men from wanting to see you in wife material. There is a reason why men are not lining up at the strip clubs with engagement rings saying, I'm ready to find my wife in here. Like, we're going for entertainment. We're going to have fun. We're not going in there because we're looking for our long-term, lifelong partner. But you're doing and acting and displaying all the same things we're seeing in those settings. And then you're shocked when that decreases the pool of men that would be willing to see you differently. So the women that are doing OnlyFans, they're not factoring this part in, that the men that typically are going to be okay with that are the men that most other men don't respect and most other women don't want. Now, you can get the simp that got the money. You say, well, I got the lifestyle. I tricked him into marrying me and he still lets me do what I want. That's cool. But we all know that you're with a loser. We know it. We get it. And nobody would trade places with you, regardless of how much he got going on. So when you do these type of things that kind of harms you, before you know it, men are not only not seeing you on a pedestal, they're not even seeing you at their level, especially if he's done well over the from 18 to 30, 12-year run. So a lot of times they don't realize, I've gone through it, where when I was younger, I would try to shoot my shot and try to, chase after certain women or whatever. And then when I got to that 30-ish, 29, 30-ish range, I started seeing the woman that I was so sprung for when I was younger. I now don't see them the same way. The thing where I would tolerate the bad attitude, the inconsistency, the flightiness, the ghosting and all of that. Now that I'm older and making a little bit more money and having more options and traveling, you think I'm going to tolerate that? You think I'm even going to respond back to you? And they don't know that when that switch happens, that whole saying of, if she didn't accept you in her prime, don't marry her in her decline. That's a real thing that men who start to level up will absolutely embrace without anybody having to teach or tell them that. So for a lot of ladies, it's highly, highly important for them to try to take advantage of, like you said, when you're your youngest, most fertile, most desired self, be smarter and get out the game as soon as you can.
The strip club is almost better than church these days. At least she's
my girl.
What?
Listen,
I'm dead serious.
All I'm going to say is King of Diamonds in Atlanta got the best chicken wings and they got great brunch on Sundays. Okay. But I'm not going to say it's better than church. But
I will.
The wings is good though.
At least the strippers are up front. They're like, I'm a whore. They just go to the church after and put a dress on.
What's crazy? What's crazy is when you're younger and you go to those type of environments. If you spend enough time and you have enough charisma, when you get to know a lot of those women, many of them aren't what people think they are. We assume it's only the women who are posting their cash apps in strip clubs and their OnlyFans that are obviously doing this stuff. The women who are doing it all were never on stage. They were never on stage. It was fascinating to see that a lot of the strippers and dancers and professional dancers, many of them had the skill set of being able to almost compartmentalize what they're doing. And for some of them, they're like, I literally just dance and that's it. And I go home. That's the end of it. I make great money. I'd be stupid not to make this money. And then their perspective is like, when this is over, I'm done with this lifestyle. And that's it. Now, obviously, that's not the case with all strippers, but many of them, they actually aren't doing a lot of the stuff that maybe your homegirls are doing that you may have no idea. Why is so-and-so always going out on trips every 2 months? And she works at a job where she can't afford to do that.
The answer's simple. Because she's letting some simp pay her flight. And maybe she also got an OnlyFans as well. Have you thought of that? How the hell she got a minimum wage job and she's able to go get flew out all these trips? Because some dude is sponsoring her trips. It's just that plain and simple. It don't take a genius to know that, for those that don't know. All right, let's keep going.
And she's not a dancer. She doesn't have OnlyFans, but she's traveling all the time. And you start to put two and two together. Many of the common, normal girls are doing way more than the women that's more overt about it.
I think that OnlyFans women, as someone who's spent time in like a Protestant church for a few years, and also interviewed OnlyFans women, I think OnlyFans women have a better shot at getting married than the awkward girls in church. Because they're hotter. And there's hotter, number one. And two, the church girls just end up like basically married to the pastor.
Okay. So
yeah, they basically marry the pastor, and then they just go on, like their whole social life becomes the church. And then there's like two Chads in church that the girls all wait for, and then they just reject everyone else. And then like I've met women that are 30-year-old allegedly, right? I don't believe anybody, but allegedly 30-year-old women in church telling me they rejected a guy because he's not holy because he tried to smash. I'm like, virginity doesn't count after 25. They're just going to assume you did something. It doesn't. It does not count.
Virginity doesn't count after 25. Oh my God.
No, I don't think it does, because like it's only valuable if you're young. like, cause what? The guys aren't going to wait. You have to be pretty hot. Maybe if you're really, really hot, they'll pretend to believe you, but like, yeah. But I'm talking most of the church girls that I met. This is the archetype: fives, slightly chubby, usually very awkward, celibate for allegedly celibate for 2-3 years, cooked, done. The girls just coming up front and saying I'm a whore, use me. They have a better shot. They have a better shot, my opinion. Go ahead.
I'm gonna tell you this about this whole everybody supposedly was a virgin thing. I did not learn until college about these women that were claiming to be virgins and putting it in other holes. And I'm like, you do know that still counts as sex, right? No, but I'm still a virgin. I was like, ma'am, like you don't see like the ability to compartmentalize how they can excuse their behaviors is fascinating to me. So I've experienced that. I've seen it. I've heard, like, I've literally been told by women, especially when I was in college, that was a thing. I even knew women that were doing that, and that was a thing. And for whatever reason, they and you're right that there almost always will be a guy that will be willing to still accept the lies and the delusion.
Well, and the other thing too is it's gonna done. The girls just coming up front and saying I'm a whore, use me. They have a better shot. They have a better shot, my opinion. Go ahead.
I'm gonna tell you this about this whole everybody supposedly was a virgin thing. I did not learn until college about these women that were claiming to be virgins and putting it in other holes. And I'm like, you do know that still counts as sex, right? No, but
okay, that's what it was. Okay, let me expound on that about these women that are using their other entrance and still claim that they're still not been touched sexually. Oh, before I go on, please guys, like the stream, share the stream as always, and make sure. Okay, I see your comment. I'll read in a second. My good Miss Pearl and St. James, and St. James noticed that it does count as intercourse. It is, and reason B is because you're not supposed to be as a woman to get penetrate in any hole. Rather, it is 4, 5, or even 3 holes. And last time I checked, some women said they got 4 holes, and I don't want to get into that because that's a little weird. If you let a man poke you in your body, or your backside, or your butt, or you want to call it, that is entrance of a hole. That is, you lose your virginity in that area, and many areas as well, because you're engaged in some form of fornication of intercourse. If you let a man put his and poke you in your throat, that is also a form of entering, which engage in sexual, where the man is going to release. That is another form of sexual activity. If you, the other one is the one that they talk about. I don't want to go into that. That's weird. But anytime when you engage in any form where a man is sliding his member in your body, it is penetration, and that is you losing something. You're engaged in some form of procreative or non-procreative intercourse act. Keep that in mind, ladies. I know white women are especially known to talk about, say, as long as I'm still innocent because no one has poked me in my coochie, no, baby, you're still getting screwed. Even stupid porn stars are using that same rhetoric, that same logic, that same stupid excuse that if no one is entering your main hole, your box, then it's okay. No, you're still being penetrated. You're still engaged in sexual activities. Just like these dudes that's engaged in homoerotic activities, they are engaged in some form of weirdo activity as well. Now, one person writes, they always use certain subset women as examples of wonder why. I'm not sure why. Do he look like? All right. If these are questions, they gotta be in super chat. I am not gonna answer no questions unless you put some on the channel. Let's keep going. Fairies.
But I'm still a virgin. I was like, ma'am, like, you don't see, like, the ability to compartmentalize how they can excuse their behaviors is fascinating to me. So I've experienced that. I've seen it. I've heard, like, I've literally been told by women, especially when I was in college, that was a thing. I even knew women that were doing that, and that was a thing. And for whatever reason, they and you're right that there almost always will be a guy that will be willing to still accept the lies and the delusion.
Well, and the other thing too is we can't really predict how normalized some of this stuff is going to be. Like, we have to think back 100 years ago. I mean, a woman was expired at like 23. Now, no, I'm serious. So we have no idea. Like, I think when you said like men won't accept the OnlyFans, I think men will accept the OnlyFans. Unfortunately, I don't wish it, but I've been to places with high level like guys that I would say that women would want to be with, and like most men would respect. I asked them, I'm like, hey, would you overlook an OnlyFans when she was younger? Like, she did it 2 years, no on-camera corn. And I couldn't believe how many guys said, yeah, they would accept it. Yeah, I could get past that. Guys that say, oh, I won't do the like, that was the one thing I learned interviewing people, is I thought guys, when they said that, like, their standards, they meant it.
Yeah.
And then I would look and I'm like, I knew your girlfriend before she met you, and she was not the things you're saying. You know what I mean? So I'm a little bit more black-pilled. I think like, I think you're going to see a lot of like guys end up accepting OnlyFans, unfortunately. But it's partially because women are so fat, because they're like, you know what? If I have to deal with, they have to like weigh it. They're like, if I have to deal with a fat woman or a bipolar, like, it's like, okay, the fat girl, the bipolar hot girl, or the girl that's nice but with an OnlyFans. I think now, obviously, the choices are going to vary for each guy, but I just think at some point a guy's going to say good enough, unfortunately. So go ahead.
There are men. So a lot of the men that you're describing, I would argue, are simps in disguise.
Okay.
These are individuals who may have been late bloomers, financially, physically, and because they weren't used to being able to pick a better caliber of women, when they finally start getting attention to it, they just almost like gravitated and formed an attachment with one of the ones that kind of was quick enough to get to him. She's pretty, she's beautiful, she's feminine, she treats me well. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I wasn't getting this, and she's hot. I'll accept her pass. That happens all the time. What I'm suggesting is that the guy, The guy that every woman wants is the guy that won't actually accept it. The guy who has what I'm basically saying is, a lot of the women that say they want a certain type of caliber of man, they wouldn't even know where to find him if you pointed him out. They don't know what lounges to go to. They don't know what events. They don't know what conferences. So they assume that the gym or at work or just it's just gonna find me, or he's gonna pull up in my DMs. The man that every woman wants, he's typically not doing most of those things. He's going to a private gym. He's going to a social club. He's going to conferences. He works 70 hours a week. This individual is so hard to actually come into the same spaces with. And if you weren't raised by a mom or aunt or somebody to put you on game, you're just going to be going by trial and error through man after man after man. So unfortunately, there are men that's going to accept it. The women who see those men that accept women that live that way or have acted that way or are still doing it, they don't even want those men.
But wouldn't your grandfathers call you guys all Simpsons disguise? Like they're like imagine like a guy from the 1920s, right? And he said like you were accepting a non-virgin woman as a wife. Do you know what I mean? Like
most of them weren't virgins back then either. Like, we got to stop. We got to stop.
Well,
we got to stop.
I mean, whatever damage. But whatever damage they did, they're like my grandma was married at like 16, I think, 18. So I mean, there might have been,
Pearl, if grandma was getting married at 16, she was putting out at 15. You hear me?
No, I know.
Out at 15, everybody was no virgin. 40, 60 years ago. We gotta stop this narrative.
But you could still say that with the 8. They could say like, the list is going to go on and on. Like the women of the past were in better shape. They married younger. They knew how to do more. And what we've seen is every generation of guys just keeps accepting it. Like I don't.
Well, with that, you say that, but if marriage rates are declining and men are also going overseas, then maybe this generation of men isn't as simpy as we're making them out to be. MGTOW, men going their own way, actually is something. So if men are going their own way, there's a male loneliness epidemic, and men are going abroad, then a lot of men actually aren't signing up to get married, period, let alone to the women in the States.
Right, but I wish men were going abroad, but the stats don't really say that in mass. Like the women are the ones that are mostly female travelers. Like women are like 80% of solo travel. It's not really like it's more women that do it than men. And and like I'm with you. I'm just I just foresee like marriage getting pushed to be like older and older and older in the future. I think it's going to be like 35, 40. I think it's not going to be, I think like the OnlyFans is going to bleed even into like business settings where like, I think like you're going to like even in business settings, there might be like a wife or two there where like she did OnlyFans when she was young.
I'm going to predict something as well and tell me what you think about this.
Go ahead.
I predict that it's going to be polygyny and polygamy is actually going to be as normalized as OnlyFans in the next 15 years.
I agree. 2 ways though.
And the reason why I say all these men can't be simps is because there's too many women complaining about where's the good men. If we're all projecting out, then in 2030, a huge percentage of women are going to be childless and single. And a lot of men is a male loneliness epidemic. Then a lot of people actually aren't getting married or staying married. So my view is that actually all these women are not going to stay single for the rest of their lives. They're actually going to start sharing. What you think?
I agree, but they'll share until they get married. Like I think
No. I think I'm talking about openly.
Yeah.
Like Atlanta, Georgia, 2 years ago, a friend of ours, she had a little house get together for her birthday, and a girlfriend of hers that was living and staying in Atlanta had flown up. And she was telling us that the dating market was so lopsided because so many of the men down there were gay or bi that the ratio of men was anywhere between 5 to 1 to 7 to 1 in terms of women to straight men. So she was saying there were men that were going out on dates with 3 women.
That's awesome.
Right now in Atlanta, there's men going out on dates with multiple women. Normal. So they're not going to wait for marriage. They're going to go. Many of them are going to go. If you get to 35 to 40 in this culture, where everything's on social media and everybody wants to show that they got the ring and everybody wants to show a certain lifestyle, you're either going to settle for a guy you really didn't want, you're going to stay single, or you may potentially be girlfriend number 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah, so I agree with you.
And I think most modern women are okay with that, Mr. St. James. They're okay with that. Don't be so blind by their rhetoric or their arguments where their frustration that they want to control a man. If the man is appealing and attracted if they're sexually attracted to that man, they will do anything. Think about this. Why do you think when they talk about all men, especially black men, you always gotta ask that question: which black men are all you talk about? Are you talking about the majority black men, or the ones that you like, or you secretly are sexually attracted to, that want the screw like? Because there's difference. There's a major difference. And you know, when you ask the question serious to a lot of these modern women, especially black women, because I think he's talking black women in general, they won't give you an honest answer, and they shouldn't, because if they start giving an honest answer, now it goes back to their mate selection choice and why they're where they are right now. You put 2 fingers back on them when you throw a right question at them. Keep that in mind. Let's go.
But they do that in their 20s. Like Dan Bilzerian, they all follow all his ex-girlfriends, and they're all married now. But they were sharing Dan Bilzerian in their 20s. Oh yeah, they're on the jets.
I can't.
Yeah, and so women are, but this idea that women will be happy with the alpha guy, like I do alpha beta. I hate the terms. I just can't think of a better, term. But women aren't happy with anything. So like, for example, I'll take, like this idea that like, because the thing is, when you date a guy with options, women take that, in my opinion, you could disagree if you want, but the women can take that for so long, but sometimes most women crash out because the anxiety just gets to them. A case I think of is Katy Perry, Russell Brand. She had Russell Brand. She was super happy. Then she crashed out. Then she married Orlando Bloom, did the beta thing for a while, crashed out again. Now she'll be back. We've seen Rollo's chart. It's just, women, the most uncomfortable thing is women are kind of designed to be passed around. It's just, yeah.
Hold on. It's true. If anybody biology is designed to be passed around, it's men.
Well, okay.
Yeah, our biology is literally designed for us to not.
Well, then why aren't women with one man for life? Why did women have to you have to understand, if I was married to someone on the tribe and my guy got killed, I had to get past. I had to get past to survive,
Victims of war.
Every guy that's married, every guy that's married, your wife most likely belonged to someone else before you. It's like everybody. Yeah. So
listen, I get the passed around. Like, my view is what I'm coming from is through the lens that our biology is hardwired for men to be able to have meaningless and commitmentless sex. I think women are trying to match our energy, and it's ending up poor for them. I don't think that they're designed to do it. I think that's why, for them, so many other physiological things are going on during sex and when they're climaxing, and how they'll react and respond as a result of it in comparison to us. Men, we don't have to know your name. We don't have to know who you are, ever see you again. Now, there are women that move like that, but the majority of women do want to feel safe, feel like that there's some type of form of connection, feel like he's fairly charismatic. There's all these other hoops that women have to think through to get to that point to do that, especially if they're not doing, my view is this: women that can match men that have a very, very high body count, more often than not, there's usually something wrong. They end up they're either working in an industry, the sex industry, they're crashing out, they're spiraling. And for a woman to have sex with a different man every week, something is wrong.
Well,
For a man to do, to do that,
yeah.
he's rich or he looks good. That's it.
Well, I'm not saying that maybe women have the same sexual variety as, say, like men. I'm not saying we're the same. But if women were designed to be monogamous, why is it when we unleashed all the freedoms, women fought for nothing more than to be whores? Even when women get the top guy, they leave him anyway. You know, it's like,
Yeah, I won't use that word in terms of whores, but I'll give you several points in response to that. Number one, in order to have choice and be able to grow, we must be allowed to make mistakes. So the problem is that I think for whatever reason, we assume that you literally said it yourself earlier, men and women typically have to make mistakes in order to kind of learn from them.
Right.
The issue is that, what if I was to say that I actually don't think it's necessarily about women wanting to be whores as much as they want the freedom to choose, but also the freedom from the consequences of that choice when they've chosen poorly. That's very different than all women want to be whores. What I'm distinguishing is, no, there's certain women that do that as a lifestyle, but in terms of just having sex with rampant men, a huge percentage of these women that are racking up 10 guys, 20 guys, 30 guys, 40, even 40 guys, they're racking it up because they want the freedom to be able to choose the guy that they think that they can latch onto and connect with and build with potentially long term. But when it doesn't work out or he cheats, I'll say it this way. On the Sharing My Truth podcast, I basically said something along the lines of, I noticed this pattern with women coming in and out of relationships, and most of them are always the ones that's initiating the breakup. And a lot of times it's about cheating. And I'm saying, wait a minute. And I'm talking to them one-on-one, and I'll say things like, wait, let me get this straight. You don't want the man that most women don't want and ignore. You don't want to date women. You don't want to stay by yourself. You only want to date the men that all other women are also attracted to and want. And you keep leaving him every time he does the thing that attracted you, which is messing around with other women. And I asked him this simple question. If you had to choose between one man and giving him 20 choices, or 20 men and giving them one chance, which would you choose? Woman after woman after woman. I don't tolerate cheating. First or second time, I'm done. And then my argument is, wait a minute. That's how you're building up the body counts. That's how people like Pearl and people in Black Pill are calling y'all whores and all this other stuff. It's actually because you want the freedom to choose and you want the freedom to leave, but you don't want to deal with the consequences that comes with constantly going from man to man to man. You don't want to deal with the labels. You don't want to deal with the stigma. You don't want to deal with the judgment. So I wouldn't say that by and large, all women in America are trying to be whores. I think it is that they want the freedom of not their father, not their mother, not their church, not anybody else being able to dictate who they have access to, who they want to pursue, who they want to date, and who they want to marry. They want the freedom to choose that, but they actually want the freedom from the consequences once they've chosen poorly.
Well,
what you think?
Well, I think it goes back to revealed preferences versus stated preferences.
Okay.
So I can only watch what we're doing. So, you know, you could say that like women want to be in relationships, but I don't think women do. I think men want relationships more than women, to be honest. And the truth is, right now we have Hinge, and even an average girl on Hinge, you can get like, I know overweight women with like 5, 6, 7, 10,000 matches. You can filter by age. You can filter by height. Now, I'm not saying, like, obviously there's going to be a percentage of guys that smash and pass. There's going to be a percentage of guys you don't like. But, I mean, out of, like, 10,000, come on, there's somebody in there that'll date you and it'll work out with. Yeah. If women wanted it, they would do it. And we're releasing all the restraints. And what I'm seeing is that women would rather be whores than wives. And I see this based on, I think 20% of women in Gen Z are on OnlyFans. So
It's
when
pretty
women
high
have the
within
most choice
Yeah.
between 18 to 25, and that's when I think when you have the most buying power, that's when you see what people really want to do. You know, like it's like the billionaire or the millionaire, you know, they get money and they start doing this crazy stuff. Well, they always
I forgot to add this. With a lot of choices does come with some form of responsibility. Yes, as the age reflects, women do have more choices. Women exercise more of their choices, depending who they're influenced or around. But at the end of the day, if you're not picking on the choices you have in front of you, it's just choices. And because women think they got all the time in the world, there is a consequence for being on the carousel for too long. Now, earlier, St. James said about is some mental illness for women to be having so many sexual partners for years on, even to the point where you have more than 5 bodies on you as if you're a woman. And reason why that is because women act and conduct themselves like men. And they think that by having more access and have the capability to sleep with multiple men of their choosing, they're not burdened with the same consequence. And I'm sorry to say you are. You definitely are. You definitely are. All right, let's keep going. Aries.
wanted to do it. They just couldn't, they didn't have the money. So that's why I just think, I think there's something in our biology that we're not as monogamous as we originally thought, unfortunately.
Listen, it's definitely possible. I don't know that the evolutionary psychology really truly backs that up as much as are women in modern times using sex as a strategy up front instead of later as an incentive to convince these men to try to get with them. I think that's also happening too. I think a lot of times there's women, it's not even about like going through a million men on Hinge as much as when it is the guy that they want, this is what I have to give what any guy has expressed interest in me before. So I need to kind of present this early and up front as soon as possible. And then he doesn't want it because he's like, man, she smashed me on the first night. How often is she doing this? She's on OnlyFans too. I'm out. And now she's like, all right, let me try to use sex again. And a lot of times it's like, what it is I'm not an eternal optimist. Again, people call me a red pill therapist. It's just that human psychology is sometimes a little bit more complex than we try to reduce it to in terms of black and white stuff. And I know that a lot of women are using sexuality as the mating strategy to try to lock these men down. Don't women use kids to try to lock men down?
Yeah.
So
yes, they do.
Many of them try to also use sex. But what happens if the thing that they keep displaying up front and early is the actual thing that's the deterrent once he has post-nut clarity? And they're not making that connection. So when you go through a decade worth of doing this and now you're 30 and things still haven't worked out and you're like, I know guys like sex, they want sex, I'm giving it up front and it's still not working out. What am I doing wrong? They're not working with a therapist to kind of point them through that loop. So that's really, now is that the case for all women? Of course not. But that's where it comes from, where in my field and discipline, I have to look at all these different motivating factors for why we get stuck in these type of loops.
Right. But it's always like convenient that they start looking for solutions when they have less choice. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's like if you really wanted to be in a relationship, like you would have done it. No, there's a difference between being in a relationship and being in the relationship you want. They're using sex to try to lure and get the men that they want to want them long term. They're using sex, and the men that they want, other women want, and these men are like, nope. Actually, y'all, I'm not getting married at all. Like that. Also, that's happening a lot. So, I get it. I get that people, feel like the women of today are probably the worst ever. And there might be some evidence to that. But my view is, and you're right, they do tend to start to level out and start to wake up once they hit that 30, 35-ish range. Well, I don't think women are as monogamous as people previously believed. That's really my opinion. I think women are like, I don't really buy that, like, women are as monogamous as we thought.
Would you say it's not that they're necessarily as monogamous as they are possessive?
Can you say the question in a different way? I don't really understand what you're asking.
What I'm asking is are we confusing women being monogamous with being possessive of men? So what I'm basically saying is, what is it about women breaking up relationships when he steps outside of the monogamy? So she's punishing him for not being monogamous. That's often the case with most relationships. That's why a lot of women are leaving, because he's stepping outside of the monogamous agreement.
You said earlier
So
that
what I'm saying is that, but what if it's more so that actually they're not necessarily monogamous by nature, they're possessive by nature. When he's mine, and I don't have to share him. So I'll agree with you. Maybe women aren't necessarily, maybe we're confusing monogamy with possessiveness once they've locked the guy down. Maybe they're not as monogamous as we thought. They're actually possessive once they believe a man belongs to them.
Women are definitely possessive, but no, I still don't think women are as monogamous as we thought.
Yeah, maybe in let's say I grant you that. I agree with you. And let's take out the word monogamous and say possessive. Women are actually very possessive of the men that they want and are with, but maybe they aren't as monogamous as we used to think. And I can say, you know what? There's probably some significant data I haven't looked into that probably reflects you being actually right about that.
I mean, it's not data. I just look outside. You said yourself, that's what I was going to say, that women cheat more than men. So I just look at what's going on.
Nah. It's definitely fair. But yeah, I think that they're more possessive. So that makes sense.
Okay. So why do you see men sticking it out in relationships and women not in your field?
Oh, yeah. The number one central reason is the elevation or centralization around happiness. Okay. Men will stay in undesirous marriages and relationships for a whole host of reasons. It could be because of that's what he's used to, for the sake of the kids, for the sake of finances, for the sake of his name and his brand and his legacy and a whole host of things. Even when he's not getting sex. Whereas on the flip side, person after person after person that I talk to, women are kind of being reinforced this thing that the most important thing is your happiness. And I've asked women flat out, if you had to choose between your own happiness or the happiness of your family, 9 out of 10 times they're choosing their own happiness. So that's what I think is, believe it or not, the answer. It's they have a higher elevated view of the importance of happiness than oftentimes their male counterparts. Because if men prioritize happiness, how about this? If men reacted to women the way that women react to their channeling and responding to their happiness and to men cheating, if men responded and had the same expectations with women in regards to sexual fidelity in a relationship, you've made this man commit to you and made sure that he's to be sexually exclusive and monogamous with you. And you've said if you're going to get sex, it's going to be through me as your wife or girlfriend. And when you opt and choose for weeks, months, years to not offer this man sex when he can supposed to only get it from you, you're being as unfaithful as he is when he cheats. It's just that he'll oftentimes still stay and endure it, and you'll leave when he's unfaithful. So men are not prioritizing their happiness, and that's why they're being left when they could be unhappy the whole time as well and will choose and opt to stay versus their female counterparts. So I think it's centralizing happiness, honestly.
I'm pro more men divorcing. I think it would be a better place if more men put their happiness first.
I would agree with you if we put that up front instead of after the marriage has started and kids are involved. I actually would prefer that if you're going to move like women and prioritize your happiness over your kids' happiness, over the stability of the home, over all these other things, if you're going to start moving like that, if you're going to start thinking like that, I would much rather you move and think like that, not being married. Because it's just, Because again, if you do that, it doesn't matter if you initiate it. How does the family court see you?
Well,
you get what I'm saying?
yeah, but
so that's the thing.
But an
Yeah.
unhappy woman will just destroy the kids anyway. He could just
and she'll destroy him if he initiates too. So my perspective is, if as a man, if you're going to move that way and try to match her energy, and if you think you're going to move in that approach, first of all, don't get married. And then number two, I would highly, highly, highly suggest that you figure out a way to decrease her propensity for being stuck on. And so, for instance, guys we do this to ourselves. I did this. We start the process off wrong when we elevate these women above our purpose. Mm-hmm. So when you elevate women above your purpose and you put her on a pedestal, she believes she and her happiness is always central and the most high ideal of what we need to work towards. Happy wife, happy life, that concept. So when you've started off the dating and marriage component with her and her happiness being the most important thing in this relationship, you're now just getting the consequences of something you set up from the beginning. So if you sense her as a woman, it has to be her way. It's always what she wants. It's always going to. The last thing you better do is give that woman kids or a ring. So when you see when a grown woman starts referring to herself as a princess, run. When a grown woman is idolizing all these famous celebrity women, run. When a grown woman is saying and constantly comparing what she's doing in her relationship with you with what she's seeing with her friends and on social media, run. Because she's elevating happiness as the highest ideal and not commitment, not longevity, not her oath. It is her happiness. I'm going to say something, and I know I'm going to get killed for this, and I'm just starting with podcasting. Women are not loyal to you as a man. Women are loyal to their feelings. And if their feelings are positive about you, she'll be positive towards you. But if her feelings are negative towards you, she will not be loyal to you. So if you look at it through that lens, the woman who has an elevated view of her feelings and emotions and her happiness, she'll never be loyal to you. She never was. She was loyal to her feelings about you. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense.
No, it don't. And personally, if she's going based on feelings, because women more likely they dictate everything in their life, all walks of their inner nature by how they feel, it makes maybe sense why you'll come at it or come on podcast, Mr. James, in a more clear, soft, and maybe we could say demure tone. Because you don't act as threatening when you go that direction. Which that really makes sense. Because you're trying to control the feeling aspects of said nature of women. So when you lay out your logic, they can't refute because you're not going at them with a very much aggressive male tone. Especially a black man. Now, if you're white man, yeah, some black women, they'll accept that aggressive tone. But if you're black man with the black woman, they will not. They will fight you because it's out of their psychology, gentlemen. Think on that. Just think on that. If they're loyal to their feelings, then that will say that every time if she feels some way with you, you better turn the other direction. Because I mean, she has lost any respect and any love towards you because her feelings are not there with you. So yeah, we'll have to agree with that one. All right, we're gonna play a few more and we'll end this. Let's go.
We say anything, I just add like right now. You know, I love you right now. I think this right now. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
What do you think about the married men are happier stat? Do you think that is true? Conservatives always cite that married men are happier. I personally think that their wives are sitting next to them, so they got.
Oh no, I don't believe any of these stats when it comes to happiness scales.
Okay.
And part of the reason is because there's too many variables that are not being included. These are oftentimes simple yes or no questions that's a little bit more complicated than I think we want to acknowledge and realize. So for instance, all these women that are claiming to be happy when they are single, I'm like, well, at the same time, I'm seeing all this data that's saying the highest level of diagnoses for anxiety and depression is in this population. The highest level of prescription antipsychotics and antidepressants is in this same population. And they have the high student loan debt. They're leading the lead in consumer spending. They have these mortgages that they're trying to shoulder by themselves. And yet they the happiest people on the planet. That's not adding up to me. So that's why I like these stats, this data about who's the happiest and all that. If anything, I think all of these things are a lie, because it's convincing women you are your happiest when you're by yourself in perpetuity, and men are their happiest when they put themselves in marriages, especially in the West. And I'm like, who's pushing these articles? Who's pushing these studies that's telling men to keep getting married and telling women you're your happiest when you're single? And I'm like, I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
And plus, pulling women on happiness, it's like one day we're happy, one day we're not. You know, it's like, what day did you take the study? Like,
literal neuroticism is more expressed in. So sorry for the fans and everybody watching. Neuroticism is the wide range of expression of emotions and feelings. Women seem to display more emotions, good and bad, both extremes, in the female population in comparison to men or males. So like you said, day in and day out, it depends on the day. It depends on the day. So I'm like, no. I don't buy it. Don't buy it.
women cope with not being happy with student loan debt, consumer spending, alcoholism. So why do you think that is?
Two of those, you said consumer debt, student loan debt, and alcoholism?
Yeah.
Because these are three easy things that they have very easy control over. Like for instance, it's extremely difficult to really put anything else in those areas that can't continue to sustain the lifestyle that they're trying to live. So for instance, when I'm alone, when I don't have much going on, I can always fall back on my degree. I can always fall back on my job. I could always fall back on the things that kind of help self-soothe me to make me feel like, because what it's doing is reinforcing my ability to be able to still live the lifestyle I want, even if there's some drawbacks to it. So for instance, if in this most recent administration, as DEI and other things have kind of happened, you're seeing a kind of change in tone with certain populations within the female population, because a lot of them started getting layoffs. Mm-hmm. Now that whole I can cope with my job thing, or I don't need a man thing, we're not hearing that as much as we was hearing in November. So a lot of times it's because you have it and you can do it, and it can allow you to still live the lifestyle that you want. But if that job gets lost, if that field gets standardized by AI, all of a sudden you're looking back at the other half that you said you didn't need. So because they have it, that's why they use it.
Yeah, I agree. So I think we're going to go to the next part of the show. Will you give me therapy on some of my black pill ideas?
I got you. Okay.
That's it. I'm glad that it stops right there. We don't give a fuck about the therapy. You don't need no therapy. Go pay an actual therapist. But anyhow, so the question should be laid on the table. Does a black male therapist goes viral? Is he using white women to build his platform? I didn't reference this question early on the stream, but I'll reference now. The answer is, from what I'm seeing and paying attention intuitively from the few podcasts, and these are the ones I could find in it, I would say yes. Yes, very much gratefully, yes, it is. But is it a bad thing? I can't say, because nowadays, if you're a black man and you're trying to start off from square one, you're not gonna really alpha your way or start from the ground up, or get it from, or get what they call bootstraps in and grind to grow a platform. You're going to try to get or find the nearest non-black person possible to get the eyeballs, which is a very smart move if you're a person that wants to have success and to grow a bigger following faster. That'll be the right route for some people, but not all people are going to get away with it. So where route Mr. James takes is the route he chooses to take because he's trying to grow a strong following at a more quicker rate. And going through non-black women is the way to go. Unfortunately. Yeah. So, and one other thing for those that don't know. If you want to really have him on as a guest, you're going to have to pay a consultation fee, most likely, to have him on your platform. You're going to have to cough up $500 or more. For those that don't know. And I'm not saying anybody should pay him that money, but I'm just saying, if you want him, have him on just to hopefully to get some eyeballs on your channel, I think you have to think long and hard on that one. But anywho, and quite a few people that had him on did pay that fee. Let y'all know. So don't be fooled. Do not be fooled. Other than that, it looks like nobody want me to put the call link. That's cool. I thank everybody for watching or listening to today's podcast or today's stream. Please leave your thoughts in the comment section below on everything what St. James has had with Pearl. I stand clearly that he is someone to really keep an eye on. Most people are going to continue doing content on him as long as he goes and puts, I guess, modern women in their place, particularly black women most predominantly. But let's see what the future holds, Mr. St. James. Yeah. Links to follow me are below in the description. You can follow me on Twitter at Chaos7. You can add me as a friend on Facebook, Eric Ray on Facebook. Join my Discord servers. Follow me on Rumble, C-Rain23 on Rumble. And last but not least, become a member of the Chaos Rain Show as well. Membership has perks. Thank y'all for watching. I truly appreciate it. Until next time, and I mean until next time. Let it chaos reign.
They like the chaos.
They like the chaos. So when you're able to
The chaos.
let that chaos reign with,
The chaos.
let that chaos reign with,
The chaos
let that chaos reign with,
must reign.